Hi, sixth grade. I hope you're all doing well. I know this is a tough time. I know it can get kind of boring, a little stressful. If you need anything, you know how to reach me through phone or through email. I am available anytime during the school day. I sent my phone number to your parents. I understand that we have emails now that I can reach out directly to you. This will be our first week of me trying to teach you through virtual way. We're going to be using Office 365 to try to have team meetings and possibly all talk at the same time or separately. I think for this week, I'll have you call or email me with the answers. I'm going to be reading Loser to you. I'm going to try to have you answer the questions for me, but I do have to reread chapter 18 because we didn't get quite through it. It does discuss earwax, which you know is not tops on my list of things to be talking about. So I'm going to ask you the questions that I want you to think about during this reading. Then I'm going to read the questions again. I'll also post the questions so you can see them, and I would like you to call me afterwards and we will discuss them, and that's how I'll take your grade for the day. Okay, first question. When Donald comes to the test where he must write about his best friend, why does he write about Hector, even though they are not friends? Okay, that will be your first question. When Hector and Donald talk during recess, why is the one thing that shows Hector might be interested in Donald being best friends? Okay, and the one thing I want you to think about, just to talk to me about, how has Donald changed from first grade to fifth grade? Okay, 3 questions. I'm going to reread this. Chapter 18, Best Friend. It isn't a schoolwork test. There has been nothing to study for. There has been no warning. One day in 5th grade, Mrs. Shankfelker simply passes out booklets with blue covers. Barry Peterson says, "Is this a test?" She says, "No." Calls it some big word, but Zinkoff looks at it and sees that there are questions and there are little egg spaces in for the answers. It is a test. Every other school test that Zinkoff has ever taken has been about some classroom subject, arithmetic, geography. This test seems to be about himself. What does he think about this? Why does he do that? Which of these does he prefer? Halfway through the test, Zinkoff has to admit to himself, this is the first test he's ever taken that's actually fun. It's more than one thing that makes him feel like a grown-up. More of the answers come easily to him than on any other test he has ever taken. And then comes the question that stumps him. Who is your best friend? Unlike most of the questions, this one is not multiple choice. No little eggs to fill in, just a blank line. If he had this test back in 2nd grade, he would have said Andrew Orwell. But Andrew, his neighbor, has long since moved, and no obvious replacements have come to mind. Oh, sure, Zinkoff has friends. There's Bucky, who he plays marbles with, and Peter, that's the second sloppiest kid in the class, and Katie Sneelson, who smiles at him every time she sees him. Friends all, but not a best friend. He knows what a best friend is. He sees them all over the place. Best friends are Bert Neal and George Overcliffe, or Ellen Dabney and Ronnie Joe. Best friends are always together, always whispering and laughing and running, always at each other's house, having dinner, sleepovers. They practically are adopted by each other's parents. You can't pry them apart. Think about who your best friend is. I can think of a couple. Zinkoff doesn't have anybody like that. Most of the time, he doesn't even think about it. But now he has to. He wonders what it would be like to be so stuck to another kid that you could walk into his kitchen and his mother wouldn't even look up because she's so used to you would say, "Wash your hands, sit down, you're late for dinner." It seems kind of neat thinking of it that way, and he sometimes regrets not having a best friend. But then he usually thinks about his own mother and father and Polly, and he thinks about the 900 block of Willow, and he figures he's doing okay. Until he comes to this question. Who is your best friend? and the blank space seems to be speaking to him. If you don't have one, you better get one. He skips over the question and then he returns to it. Pretty soon, Mrs. Shankfelter says, "Pencils up." Best friend, best friend. Not one more minute, she says, and she doesn't usually even give a warning. He panics. He looks around the classroom. Too bad if the teacher thinks he's cheating. His eyes settle on Hector. Ben's way up in the front of the class. Hector's head is down and his shoulders are hunched over, and he's working on the test. Hector Benz has been in Zinkoff's class since the first grade. So, of course, Zinkoff knows who he is. Over the years, they have found themselves at the same water fountain or the same monkey bar rung. But Hector Benz, being a B, has always been far away from Zinkoff, and the information about him is spotty at best. This is the sum of what he knows about Hector Benz. He wears glasses. He is Zinkoff height. He loves black licorice. And he always is cleaning his ear out with a paperclip. You know how I would feel about that. Hand sanitizer for sure. And now he knows one more thing. Hector Benz is probably available. He has no best friend either. Pencils up. He quickly fills in the blanks, misspelled both first names, Hector and Benz. We know he's not a great speller. He can hardly wait for recess. He finds Hector Benz by the bicycle rack, working on his ear with a paperclip. "Hi, Hector, what's up?" "Huh?" Hector replies and repeats, "What's up?" But Hector doesn't seem to hear. Maybe his hearing goes bad when he's got that paperclip in his ear. Otherwise, he doesn't seem to be unfriendly. Benz goes at his ear with gusto that Zinkoff has never noticed before. He digs and scrapes, wincing in pain or pleasure. Zinkoff can't tell which. He pulls out a paperclip and examines it. To Zinkoff's eye, it's clean. Benz plunges it into the next ear, and he digs and scrapes and winces. This time, the clip comes out with tiny orange wax crumb clinging to the end of it. Benz pulls his pants pocket and pulls out a small brown bottle that looks like a pill container. He brings the bottle to his mouth, and for an instant, he thinks he's going to eat it. But he simply pulls off the white flip-top cap with his teeth. He taps the paperclip of the rim to the bottle, and it falls, that waxy crumb. Zinkoff notices that the bottle is half full. Okay. Benz returns to that bottle and the paperclip to his pocket. Only then does Benz seem to notice that he's not alone. The obvious question crawls to the front of Zinkoff's tongue, but somehow he holds back. "So," he says, "who did you put for your best friend?" Benz pulls out a pack of black licorice from another pocket. He rips off half a stick and begins to chew. "Nobody," he says. "Really?" Zinkoff said. "You left it blank? Can you do that?" Benz shakes his head, except for the first moment. His eyes never meet Zinkoff's. He's always looking like beyond him. "I wrote nobody, the word nobody." "Oh," Zinkoff said, "nobody." Benz stuffs the rest of the stick into his mouth. "Nobody is the name of my lizard." "Oh," Zinkoff stares at him. "You have a lizard named Nobody?" Zinkoff stares at the eye that stares at beyond. Suddenly he gets it. "Oh, you have a lizard named Nobody." "Yes, and that's who I put down as my best friend." "Oh," Zinkoff says, "I get it." Hector Benz collects the earwax and has a lizard named Nobody, who he calls his best friend. Zinkoff's figures his choice is looking better by the minute. "Knows who I put down," he said. "No," Zinkoff says. "You," says Zinkoff. Benz blinks. His eye disconnects from the beyond, and he slides over Zinkoff's face. "Huh?" he says. Zinkoff says, "Yeah, I put your name down." "Me? Why would you put me down?" "Because I had to put somebody down, and I thought of you. But I'm not your best friend." I know, and I'm not yours either, but I thought maybe we could be. I mean, I wrote your name down and all. Hector Binns isn't answering. His eyes have gone back to the beyond. Zinkoff doesn't know the word negotiation, but that's what this actually is. He tries to think of something he can offer, something to sweeten the pot. I make good snickerdoodle cookies, he blurts out. Binns' left cheek bulges out as he chews on his licorice wad. His teeth appear, they're outlined in black, almost like a cartoon. As a fifth grader, Zinkoff knows cool when he sees it. He takes a stab at trying to be cool himself. He shuffles his feet, he looks at his thumb in his waistband of his pants, and he gazes beyond on his own, trying to be cool. So, he tosses a shrug. What do you think? Making it sound like not that he cared one way or another. Binns sniffs. He turns his head and he's looking over his right shoulder now. His lip slides to the side of his face, to the far corner of his mouth. He opens like a little eye comes out of the black dollop of juice down his face. It then hits the ground. At last he speaks and answers Zinkoff. What I think is when I get enough earwax, I'm going to make a candle. Wow, an earwax candle. Zinkoff is willing to bet Vince has not shared this blockbuster idea with just anyone. The end of recess bell rings. The two of them trot side by side. See you after school, Zinkoff says. Binns says, yeah, I guess. That is the end of chapter 18 of Loser. Okay, the question will be, describe 2 ways that Zinkoff has changed since 1st grade to 5th grade. Then you can tell me 1 way he stays the same if you want to. The next question is, when Donald comes to the test question where he must write down a best friend, why does he write Hector, even though they aren't friends? So think about what I read. Think about where he was located in the room and what you know about Donald's idea of a best friend. Lastly, when Hector and Donald talk during recess, what is the one thing that shows Hector might be interested in being friends with Donald? Do you think it's that he shares an idea about the earwax candle? Do you think it's because he stays around him and has a conversation with him? What do you think that is? This was my first video for chapter 18. I will do another one this week. Both of them will be posted on the Teams site. Also, you'll be able to get it on the YouTube site, which I will put in the Teams website. It will be emailed to your parents. It will possibly be emailed to you. I have to check with your parents and see if that's okay. And there will be a copy available of all the information on the Riverview website. I hope you're doing well. When you call me or email me, please have some things you want to tell me, some things you want to share, or maybe just how you're doing. I do miss you all very much. I can't quite find Harley right now, but let me try to call her. Harley! Nope, no Harley. I will look for her and make sure that she's in the next video. Wait, hold the phone. Here she comes. Come here, girl. Come on. Come on. Come on. Let me see if I can get her. Carly, come here. Oh, boy. Oh, wait. That's about all I could get. Sorry. I will get better at this. We'll have more to share, and we'll work together and get everything that you need done. If for some reason you can't get anything done or everything done, have your parents email me. We can look at changing information. We can look at fixing things. Again, I miss you very much. Until the next video.